We got a jam-packed episode planned for you guys today because with Caleb Wilson in his introductory press conference saying that he wants to win Rookie of the Year, I'm going to talk about what he needs to do to stand out against the other competition in the top four. We're going to focus on the top four players in that draft, and we're going to compare what the last three Rookie of the Years have done and where that means Caleb Wilson's stats have to be around in 2026-27. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to talk about a secret weapon that the Chicago Bulls have in free agency, and that's the bird rights to Anfernee Simons and Collin Sexton. I'm going to explain that more during the episode. Plus, we're going to dive into the mailbag. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Darryn Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get to this content for today, y'all. At his introductory press conference, Caleb Wilson set such a tone and said that he wants to win Rookie of the Year. He also talked about, the major competition there with Darryn Peterson, Cam Boozer, AJ Dybantsa. He understands the draft class that he's in, right? And don't count out somebody outside the top four to make a case for Rookie of the Year too, but just for the nature of this conversation, we're going to focus on the players that win in the top four. And so there's a number of things that Caleb Wilson is going to have to do. Not necessarily averaging 20 points per game or anything like that. It has to be close, right? But I think that what I've done here is kind of outline and look at the history of the Rookie of the Year award over the last 3 years, and also the roles that each of these players that were drafted in the top four are going to have on their team and how that can help or hurt their cases to win Rookie of the Year, right? So I think the first advantage that Caleb Wilson is going to have in this is the plus stat diversity, right? He's going to join a Bulls team that right now is going to need real minutes from him and defensively from him right away, right? He's going to get real minutes here. Him, Josh Giddey, Buzelis, Dailyn Swain, Nic Claxton, like these guys are all going to get a lot of minutes, right? And so that's the first thing. You need to be able to go to a team where you're going to have the role to do so. Like, for example, Buzelis just didn't have the role his rookie year that would have ever put him in being able to be Rookie of the Year. It just wasn't. Now, was he ever going to win it? That's a story for another day, but he just was never in that. Like the Bulls, because Billy Donovan decided to kind of unleash him later, they already put him out of that conversation, right? So I think that when you look at a baseline for Rookie of the Year path, you're just looking at between 16 and 20 points per game, 8 to 10 rebounds, 2 to 3 assists per game, 1 steal, 1 block, a really high efficient field goal shooting percentage, and he's going to have to play at least 65 games. That's what I look at it, right? And so when you look at the advantages that he's going to have with this, right, what helps this? One, the immediate role. The Bulls are going to need front court scoring. They're going to need athleticism. They're going to put pressure in transition and the defense. Caleb Wilson is not going to be buried on the bench for this Bulls team, and that's the big thing, right? The fit with Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey is going to help use Caleb Wilson. Josh Giddey's ability as a cutter, as a roller, a transition runner, and a target on the short roll. Josh Giddey is going to understand how to get Caleb Wilson the ball right away, right? And then also he has the backline protection of Nic Claxton. Now, a lot of people have made the case, in a very reasonable and fair case, that Nic Claxton's defense has fallen off over the last couple of years. Now, I'm hoping, and many other Bulls fans are hoping, that that's more of a byproduct of being on a tanking team, and that now that he's going back to a winning situation, that he will get back to being that player that was top 10 in Defensive Player of the Year. But if he does, even if he just becomes a really good weak side defender, having that backline of defense, I think people don't understand how much that makes you feel more comfortable to gamble, whether it's in the passing lanes or whatever else. So having Nic Claxton there is going to be there. Also, Caleb Wilson is going to have those two-way stats. He's going to be able to pile up rebounds, steals, blocks, and dunks, right? Which dunks are going to help play a part into that as well, right? Now, especially if Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa outscore Caleb Wilson, having the two-way stats could be the difference maker. Now, Peterson is a really good two-way player as well. AJ Dybantsa is growing as a two-way player, but Caleb Wilson's going to have that right away. But then also the narrative part. Do not overlook how big narrative and story plays into a part of Rookie of the Year. The number 4th overall pick, a new Bulls era, a confident Rookie of the Year quote, right? People are going to keep going back to that quote, right? In a major market, and if Chicago improves as a team as well, voters are going to notice that, right? And I think also it's the elite places that Caleb Wilson's going to have. He's going to have elite finishing, rim protection, and rebounding, and those are going to matter because he's not going to have to be asked to do too much. And the things that he is going to be asked to do, he's already super efficient at, which is going to play a part into that. But there are also some disadvantages for Caleb Wilson as well. One being the scoring hierarchy, right? Rookie of the Year voters usually reward points, right? That's it. And Darryn Peterson, AJ Dybantsa, and Cam Boozer have cleaner scoring cases, right? So they're going to walk into those teams and probably be the primary scoring option right away. Whereas for Caleb Wilson, Modest is still going to get his shots. Josh Giddey's still going to run the offense. So there could be a scoring hierarchy that he's going to have to come against. That's why the two-way play is going to be really important for him, right? And Cam Boozer's a good. I don't think I mentioned Cam Boozer's a really solid defender too. Even though I think Caleb Wilson, his defense is going to stand out more because of the athleticism, the switchability, playing in the passing lanes a little bit more is going to help him stand out a little bit more. But Cam Boozer's a fine defender too. I think, the jumper questions, right? Like if Caleb Wilson's NBA, if he can't hit an NBA three consistently and the spacing between him, Claxton, Giddey, and Swain gets tight, I do think that that's going to cause a little bit, maybe it's going to be a disadvantage for him there, and we'll see. And also, I do think the number of players that the Bulls have in the front court, Caleb Wilson isn't going to come in averaging 30 minutes per game. Modest, Nic Claxton, Jalen Smith, Noah Essengay, Leonard Miller, right? Like there's going to be a lot of players. Jalen Smith, I don't think I mentioned him. There's going to be a lot of players in that front court that are going to balance out the minutes. So you're not going to see like Caleb Wilson walk in and play 33 minutes a game. But I don't think any of those rookies are going to do that. So we'll see. Then also the fact that Cam Boozer is the most polished out the class. Like that's going to be a huge factor in this that differentiates between the guys is that Cam Boozer is so polished. He's going to walk in and average a double-double. That's at baseline. He's going to average a double-double and probably going to average more of a 15, 18 to 20-point double-double as well. So there you have it. And then, of course, you have the Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa. They have star creation profiles, right? Those guys are rookies that they are the future number one options, immediately stepping on the court. And the voters usually do work into that. But then let's talk about what does the other guys have that's going to work against them? AJ Dybantsa, for example, right? Yes, he's the best pure wing and star profile of this class, averaging 25.5 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists at BYU, and that's why he was the number one overall pick, right? The edge that he has is rebounding, front court defensive, but Wilson over him has rebounding, front court defensive stats, easier efficiency, less pressure on him to be a primary creator right away, and that's where Caleb Wilson can have a advantage over AJ Dybantsa, right? AJ Dybantsa is going to get a lot of isolation touches, isolation ball, kind of stands out to voters as well. That's what you're looking at. Darryn Peterson, same thing. Darryn Peterson averaged over 20 points, 4.2 rebounds, 1.6 assists. He's walking in right away. He's going to have the ball in his hand. And that's going to be the thing that makes it. He's going to have the ball in his hand. He's going to score. And if he averages 20 plus as a rookie guard, that's going to be very hard to beat, even with two-way stats. And I think Wilson's edge with him does come size, the rebounding, the blocks, the defensive versatility, and he's going to be a lot more efficient being closer to the rim. And then Cam Boozer, we just talked about it. Cam Boozer, his scoring, his passing, his efficiency, right? The fact that he's going to probably average 19 and 10, something like that. Like he's going to be very efficient early on. And even though I do think Caleb Wilson is going to be efficient because of what he's asked to do, I think the better vertical athleticism is going to stand out. Again, those storyline things. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Wilson is somebody who ends up having like the dunk of the night a dozen times throughout the NBA career, right? The transition explosiveness is also going to be something that I think stands out as well. So then let's look at what the last three rookies of the years have done, right? When you look at this, as the rookie of the year, Victor Wembanyama averaged 21.4 points per game, 10.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists, 3.6 blocks per game. That's elite production. You can't knock that production. Stephon Castle, who was in a weaker draft class, averaged 14.7 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 4.1 assists per game. And Cooper Flagg last year, 21 points per game, 6 rebounds, 4.5 assists per game, right? That's what those guys had. That's a amazing stat sheet from all those guys. But I do think that because this rookie class is strong, it is going to mean that you're going to have to be closer to the Wemby Flagg than the Castle range, right? So let's talk about like what is a realistic rookie of the year target for Caleb Wilson. I think if Caleb Wilson can average 18 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 2.8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, so 2.5 stocks per game, can shoot 52% or above from the field, 60% true shooting, and plays 65 plus games, and the Bulls make a clear improvement when he's on the court. I think that narratively is going to be enough to get Caleb Wilson in the Rookie of the Year conversation. I think the minimum to stay in the race is 16 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 combined blocks and steals. But then again, that's going to get you in the conversation. That's probably going to get you all rookie first team. That's not going to get you Rookie of the Year, right? So that's what it comes down to. I think that Wilson can win Rookie of the Year, but the path is very specific. Efficiency has to be the name of the game. It just has to be the name of the game if you're going to get that. Efficiency, elite production, elite two-way play for a rookie. I'm saying all this in the framework of a rookie. I'm not expecting Caleb Wilson to instantly be one of the better two-way players in the league, but I think that you have to have those things in your bag. If you do, you have a chance to win Rookie of the Year. Is he going to for sure? I wouldn't say that. That'd be crazy for me to say, but I do think that there is a case to be made that he can. It's just those things have to happen, and they have to be consistent for him, and he has to make an impact day one. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think Caleb Wilson would have to do to win Rookie of the Year in this class, considering the two-way play that he brings and not just leaning offensively? Let me know what you guys do. You think he has a realistic chance to do that? I know a lot of people think he can end up being the best player out of this class, and I understand that. But Rookie of the Year, let me know what you guys think on that part down below. All right, I want to talk about a secret weapon. I talked about this in the opening of the show. The Bulls have a secret weapon that can be used in free agency, and that's bird rights, right? Bird rights are something that, for those that don't know, bird rights are something that allows you to go over the salary cap, over the salary cap to retain a player that was on your roster. So if you have their bird rights, you can re-sign them and go over the salary cap. The best way I can use this is that we've heard that Austin Reeves has agreed to deal with the Lakers, but he hasn't signed it yet because they're going to wait to do their other options in free agency. Then they're going to sign him to a contract so that way they can use the bird rights to go over the salary cap and they can save their cap space to go over after a center, right? That's basically what the Lakers are doing. And so one way that you can weaponize bird rights is through something called a sign and trade. So a sign and trade, for those that don't know, is that when the other team technically is signing the player, we basically did it with DeMar DeRozan. The Kings were signing DeMar DeRozan, but we worked it out to be a sign and trade because they didn't have the cap space to sign him outright. Then we got assets back. That's also how we got DeMar DeRozan initially. So with both Collin Sexton and Anfernee Simons, kind of more specifically, being a player that probably wants to go to a winning team, and not a lot of winning teams have cap space, the Bulls can use their bird rights to do a sign and trade to where they can sign the player, trade it to the other team, and then they get some type of asset, matching salary, or something back in a case like that. That's how you weaponize even players that you don't plan on retaining. Now, is there a case for the Bulls to retain one of Anfernee Simons or Collin Sexton? Yeah, there's a chance of that. They strike out on Quentin Grimes, you can see Collin Sexton come back. So that's kind of what you're looking at in regards to that, right? So you also can renounce your bird rights. If you renounce your bird rights, that then turns into cap space because the cap hold is no longer on your books. There you go on that one, right? I think I've done a semi-good job at explaining cap stuff. I can do a whole episode explaining it. But the reason why this matters, right, is that with the Bulls and the situation right now, with maybe not wanting to take up all their money to re-sign one of Anfernee Simons or Collin Sexton, and then maybe wanting to go to a new team, they can weaponize that. So Anfernee Simons probably has the cleaner market, right? One, because he's a shooting, scoring guard who can play on or off the ball, which is really good. And of course, in the Bulls stretch, he averaged 14.5 points, 2.4 rebounds, 2.5 assists. But you also got to see him fit in with a winning Celtics team before he ever came to the Chicago Bulls. He brings 3-level point gravity, right? So he can score at all 3 levels, pull up shooting, all that type of stuff. And so I think that a team that does not have cap space, well, of course, a team that has cap space can sign him outright. But if you leverage other teams that don't have cap space, you can leverage that to do a sign and trade. I think a realistic option for this, right? And these are a few different scenarios. One, a team has limited leverage and Simons wants that destination. So at that point, the Bulls can ask for salary filler and I think 1 second-round pick. I know people are going to say first. You're not getting first for Anfernee Simons in the sign and trade, right? If a team is over the cap, which is the other scenario, and needs the Bulls to complete a deal, at that point, the Bulls can maybe try to get 1 to 2 second-round picks and a young player to take a flyer on that team may not have the time to invest in. And then the Bulls take back bad money, right? You can still take back bad money in the sign and trade. I think at that point, that's when you want to get into a protected first-round pick. If we're taking on bad money to help you get Anfernee Simons, we want that first-round pick. And I think that's what it comes down to. Now, if it's a multi-team deal, which you can work out and sign the trades. Those are a little bit more difficult. I think at that point, you're probably looking at a trade exception that can be created, right? I think this is a really good asset management for the Chicago Bulls. It's really smart management for Bryson Graham, and I think that that's what you can look at. Next up, the Collin Sexton route. Collin Sexton's market is going to be a little bit different, right? Because he's a pressure guard and more of a six-man scorer and a downhill attacker, right? When it comes down to that, I don't think he's a starting guard anymore in the NBA. Yes, he averaged over 14 points for the Bulls and stuff like that. But I think when you look at what his value is going to be lower than Simon's because he's a smaller guard, not a pure point guard. He has defensive limitations, although he's active on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think he has an archetype that's easier for teams to find than elite shooting, right? And Anfernee Simons is an elite shooter. So a team that needs bench scoring. There are three different scenarios for Collin Sexton. One, a team needs bench scoring. At that point, you're looking for 1 second-round pick and whatever the salary matching part of it is, right? If a team is over the cap and absolutely needs the Bulls, 2 second-round picks or a young player to take a flyer on. And then if the Bulls take back bad money to help Collin Sexton go to a new team, multiple seconds or a protected first if the money is very ugly, kind of long. Think about, I'll just use this as an example. If the Toronto Raptors want Collin Sexton, I don't think they do, but if they want Collin Sexton and want us to take up Jakob Poeltl's contract back, guess what? No, you got to run me a protected first, my boy, because there's 3 years left on that deal. Run me that money. But if it's a team that it's only a short-term 1-year contract with ugly money, yeah, give us multiple seconds, we'll take that, right? And then I do think this, if a contender wants a scoring six-man, at that point, expiring salary and 2 second-round picks outright, right? That's what I think you're gonna run into with this one. But I think that that's a really good strategy and really good asset management that the Bulls can employ to try to get something back in even a Collin Sexton or Anfernee Simons sign and trade by using their bird rights. Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. But okay, enough of me yapping. Let's get into the voicemail portion for today's episode. We got 4 voicemails we're going to get into. This one's from my brother Corn.
What's the good word, King Drip? It's your brother Corn. Let's get right into this shit. Hey, man, this is about 2 fellas, man. 2 kings. Number 1, shout out to the number 15 pick of the draft, Dailyn Swain. Welcome to Chicago. Hey, man, I get it. I was on the Cameron Carr train too with everybody. But once we picked him, I wasn't upset. I had my eyes and I was scoping him anyway. And then I went back with my overthinking self, and then I started watching and comparing tapes between Cameron Carr and Dailyn Swain. I'm going to tell you this. Watching D. Swain, watching how he gets down, I see why he picked Dailyn Swain over Cameron Carr. Now, a little bit, he gets to his spots. He's a slasher. He's a defender. He's an up and down player. He's intelligent, got IQ. I can't wait to see how he develops. Can't wait to watch him in the summer league. I'm so excited. And just give him some grace. Let's not get on his head. This is not Noah Essengay, y'all. This is not last year. This kid could be something special. Like he said, he compared himself to players like Ginobili, and the Knicks. Other great. I gotta tell people, not all number 1 picks got to be a goddamn superstar. You did? I hope you did. Because it's like this kid can truly be a prime role player and play a prime role of us getting the championship the same way Ginobili did for New York. But anyways, the next guy, because we only got a little bit of time. PG, Patrick motherfucking Graham, you are the shit. You are the GMs of the GMs. I am so happy that you're here, man. The shit that you're doing, the moves that you're pulling. I am so excited to see our future with you. Hey, man, that's all I got to say when it comes to that. Let's give both of them time and grace and let my man P. Graham cook. Real talk. Let that GM cook. You already know what it is, Drip. I love you. You already know what it is, y'all.
Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain are showing that just about everything that you want to see from them at this point. They're driven, they're passionate, they care about basketball, they also care about both sides of the ball. And that's not something that every player does. Like, it's just players nowadays, it's rare to find young players that take so much pride defensively. Both these guys take pride in their defense as well as what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. Are they going to have things that they need to work on to be more well-rounded offensive players in the long run? Absolutely. But they care. They're passionate. And I love that. I love that about these guys. And I think that we got guys with the right mindset, the right mentality. Now let's go out and see what they do on the court. And I'm going to be very excited to see these guys in Summer League as well. But did you call him Patrick Graham? It's Bryson Graham. Where'd you get Patrick from? All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one is from the 312.
Yo, what's up, Haize and Bulls Nation? I just got done listening to the Dailyn Swain and Caleb Wilson introductory press conference, and I just had a random thought. You know, the Bulls traded for Claxton the day before we drafted Wilson, and I just wonder in hindsight if that move is actually going to like really work out. And the reason why I say that and have questions is because we know that Claxton is not a floor spacer at all. And to this point, we don't know, that about Wilson as well. I mean, especially based off his college season and only shooting 27% from the 3-point line. And I just have a concern about them occupying the same space and maybe having a bottleneck in the paint, you know what I mean, between the both of them. And I just worry about that fit offensively. I mean, defensively, the switchability between Claxton, Wilson, Buzelis, I think that could be great with fine tuning and repetition and games played and chemistry being built and stuff. But just offensively, I'm concerned about that pairing of Claxton at the 5 and Wilson at the 4. At least in the beginning, and who knows, maybe coach is going to, do a lot of, Jalen Smith at the 5 paired with, Wilson to help better balance the floor and have more spacing. And perhaps Wilson is busting his ass and really working on his, perimeter game, right now as we speak, and over the summer. And, my hope is ultimately that, Wilson, that his talent just trumps it all, and despite maybe not having the best constructed roster around him at first, that he just finds a way to be super effective, But I think ultimately over time, man, we're gonna want to get a floor spacing big, paired with Wilson, and I know they don't grow on trees, so I don't know. I just wondered if you, Haize, had that thought or concern about that pairing of Wilson and Claxton, and if you see any holes in what I'm saying or would like to add on to anything to offer more insight on this subject, I appreciate it. Y'all take care. Thank you. Bye.
The reason I'm not worried about the spacing as much as you, and I want to make it clear, it's a valid concern, right? So, but the reason why I'm not as worried about the spacing is because of this. Caleb Wilson's athleticism, his quick first step, paired with the hops, the way he jumps out the gym, you still have to guard him at the 3-point line. Like, teams cannot completely, like, if Caleb Wilson's standing at the corner 3, they can't completely sag off him to pack the paint, because if he gets a quick first step on you with his hops, his length, and Josh Giddey or Trey Jones being able to catch him on the backside of the defense when he's going to try to yam it on your head, he's either going to get a dunk or he's going to get to the free throw line or both. So teams are going to have to still keep a body on Caleb Wilson because of how active, how strong, how athletic, and his hops. I think that's the thing that you're going to have to look at with that. So it's still going to cause some spacing issues, but I do think in that sense, the Claxton and Caleb Wilson pairing is not as bad. Now, if you do end up signing, like in my perfect offseason, a Quentin Grimes as your 2 that can space the floor some, it becomes even a little bit less than that. Now, if Swain and Caleb Wilson are on the floor together with Nic Claxton, it could become a little bit like that too. So that's just my thought process on it. I do understand your concern for sure, and we'll see how it works out. All right, let's get into this next voicemail, man. This one's from Rob.
What's up, Haize, man? It's Rob.
long time listener, first time caller. Hey man, look, I got an idea, right? So first of all, don't kill me for this one, but I know everybody is like done with P. Will, but hear me out. If you remember when P. Will first like was kind of popping, like his first year, second year, whatever, his big weapon was the mid range pull up, right? He got a lot of good elevation on it or whatnot. Billy Donovan pretty much banned mid range shots, right? So with our new coach kind of being, open to that mid-range possibility, it could be a resurgence for P. Will. It could be. I mean, I'm not saying it's non-permanent, but it could be, right? Because under Billy Donovan, we pretty much turned him into a corner three-point shooter. So now I feel like it could be a little resurgence for his game. That's one. Two, I'm thinking that we still don't necessarily have a starting two guard. I like the draft pick, the Dailyn Swain kid. I don't know if he's necessarily ready to start. So, if we miss on like the Isaiah Joes or whoever else of the world, what do you think about the Bulls taking a swing on the what's the kid from Utah? The Bryce Sensabaugh kid, right? I feel like with them, they just drafted Peterson. They still got Ace Bailey over there. They probably need a little bit of defense. So I'm thinking maybe we could put together a package centered around Isaac Okoro to send over to Utah, maybe get the Bryce Sensabaugh kid on a rookie deal so it wouldn't really cut too much in on our money. And, I mean, shit, he cooked us a few times, when we played the Jazz. So he definitely can shoot. He's definitely a scorer. I don't know if he's necessarily a starter per se, but, I mean, you don't know till you know, right? But, yeah, man, let me know what you think about that. Peace.
I have no faith in P. Will. No faith in P. Will. But you're right. Like, P. Will went from his rookie year about 22% of his shots coming in the mid-range to last season, I think about 4.5% of his shots came in the mid-range. So, like, the mid-range portion of his game did come down, but I think Patrick Williams' problem isn't his skill set. It's his mentality. It's his drive as a player to be great, right? Now, maybe that changes. We already had Modison here. You add guys like Caleb Wilson and Dailyn Swain. There's a new mindset with the coaching staff and everything. And maybe he finally realizes, like, hey, I need to give a shit about winning, but I just don't have any faith in P. Will anymore. That's just my personal opinion. As far as Bryce Sensabaugh, he would be the perfect type of acquisition for the Bulls, right? He makes sense. He's a restricted free agent at the end of next season. The Utah Jazz have completely changed their guard rotation. He may find himself the odd man out between Keontae George, Darryn Peterson. Ace Bailey's going to play kind of 3 and 2 there, and he could find his way out. And at somebody who just, I think, averaged 14.5 points per game, I'd absolutely be interested in the Chicago Bulls taking a shot at him if he's made available. Now, I'm not giving up a future first, and that's what they could want because of his age and stuff. So if it's that, then I'm not doing that. But I will say this, Bryce Sensabaugh is the type of player that is young at 20, still 22, going into his 4th year in the league, and he averaged 15 points per game last season. He went from 7.5 to 11 to 15 basically last year. That's definitely a player. And he's a career 38% three-point shooter, 6'6", 235 pounds. Absolutely. If he's made available, I would love for the Bulls to call and see if they can get Bryce Sensabaugh in here. Great pull. Not just a good one. That's a great pull on that one. All right, let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Larry.
What up, Haize? This is Larry Automobile. I listened to your podcast or your show this morning. It talked about breaking down different levels of positions and, what to take on based on that. And that answered part of my question right there. I appreciate that. My second part, given that right now we only have a couple of roster spots left too, if Leonard Miller is brought back, what would be your priority given that we still need some shooting and we do kind of need a big man with, with a little bit more size that we could use? What do you feel is most important for development? And with that being said, what is the priority versus getting one of those positions filled? Because I believe he's going to leave one of those roster spots open for a deal going into the season. Might be wrong about that, but what is your priority that you're looking at? If you had to choose either the shooting or getting another big to help the development of this roster. I know it's not about wins and losses, but to help the development. I'm thinking the shooting is more important than the big, but just let me know what you think. All right, appreciate it.
I think the first thing is that we have to make sure that we realize everything isn't going to get fixed this offseason. It's just not, right? I do think shooting is going to probably be easier to get because I think one of Nick Richards or Zach Collins is going to come back to be the backup big man. So I think we're going to have the backup bigs there. I think if you can get Quentin Grimes, like I've talked about a lot, in free agency, then that helps a lot with shooting. And you get a starting caliber 2 guard that's going to give effort on the defensive side of the ball too. That's probably you can get for the mid-level exception. So yeah, I think that you want to target the shoot and starting 2 guard, and then and then hope in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is. At that point, then Dailyn Swain is ready to take over, if not before then, because Quentin Grimes can also come off the bench. So he's a guy that Quentin Grimes is almost the perfect acquisition because he can start, he can come off the bench, he can do either of those. And I like that and what he brings for a shooting profile for the Bulls too. But that's going to do it for today's episode, y'all. I want to thank you guys, to everybody that called in today. You guys know you're the lifeblood of this show, man. You make Chicago Bulls Central what it is. We have a very exciting offseason and very exciting time in this Bulls team where things are actually changing. I want to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think Caleb Wilson needs to do to win Rookie of the Year legitimately this year? How do you feel that the bird rights can be weaponized in signing trades this offseason? Let me know your thoughts on that down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of Breaks